Sony's CEO has just confirmed himself that Sony will be rebooting the Spider-Man spin-off franchise. Yes, it is confirmed by Tom Rothman himself, Sony Pictures CEO. They are going to reboot the Spider-Man spin-off franchise, and they are going to cast new people, so it won't be connected to Kraven the Hunter, the Venom movies, Madam Web. It's really funny saying all that out loud. It really seems like they should have just stopped, and maybe we were fools to believe that they were actually going to fully stop, or maybe we never really believed them after all. But in a recent Q&A with the Town podcast, Sony CEO did speak up, and he did confirm indefinitely. He just 100% confirmed they are going to rebooting it, and he actually gave quite a bit of details on what they are kind of going to do. And he also talked about Sony's relationship with Marvel Studios. And it sounds like it's nothing but great right now, which is good because we have actually been hearing reports that Sony is going to let Marvel Studios use more of their characters, basically give them an open catalog. Now, both can be true, but it is still a little concerning that they're going to reboot their Spider-Man spin-off universe. So this is just a part of the Q&A. The Q&A is pretty long, but in the very beginning of part 2, posted by The Town, it starts off right away with them asking, where are we in the Spider-Man franchise? Is the larger Spider-Verse dead? He says no. They specify, we are not talking about the animated Spider-Verse. We're talking about the spin-off Spider-Man universe live action. And he says yes. He says, is the larger Spider-Verse dead? No. Are you going back to those at some point? He responded, yes. Will it be a fresh reboot with new people? Yes. These are coming straight, like you don't get any more official than this coming from Sony CEO. So we have it right there. It's confirmed. They're going to reboot it. Will they have Spider-Man in it this time? That is kind of the big question that people are asking right now. Unfortunately, they did not ask that in the Q&A. Now, he did talk about how successful Spider-Man has been in the MCU. So that's a very interesting point because they have to realize that their characters do better in the MCU. They obviously understand that. And he even stated in the interview that Kevin Feige is a genius. And the fact that they could introduce Spider-Man in a movie with Robert Downey Jr. and connect him to the MCU's narrative was a no-brainer. So they fully admit that. In this whole entire interview, I watched the entire thing, not just all the Marvel stuff, but the entire thing. He's very smart, right? We question a lot of their decisions, but there's a lot of people involved when it comes to making movies, especially movies where you're doing Spider-Man spinoffs without Spider-Man. It gets weird, which is why everybody's wondering if they're going to have Spider-Man in this, but it's really weird because he's obviously very smart. You don't get to that position without being very smart. And it does seem like he knows a lot. And he even states, they specifically ask, how is your relationship with Marvel? He says, it is great. And they jumped at the opportunity to introduce Spider-Man in the MCU and connect that to the narrative. So I don't doubt that they would jump to that opportunity again to introduce more Spider-Man characters, and it's going to be more money for them. And it does seem like there are kind of a handful of characters that they want to keep for themselves, but I also think a lot of characters could also exist in two different universes, being different characters, not fully connected to the MCU, even though that's what they seemingly were trying to do with Venom. Trying to connect it to the MCU with those post-credit scenes. Technically, they did connect it to the MCU. They just never really followed up on it. But here's more of what they said in the interview because I thought it was pretty great. One, he was sad or mad that Spider-Man No Way Home did not do $2 billion. It did 1.9, and he said the reason he was upset is because it didn't release in China because, and this is very interesting, he just revealed this, China wouldn't let the movie show in their country unless they remove the Statue of Liberty from the movie. And there's two parts that come to that. One, that's in a lot of the movie. At the end of the movie, And two, he said he didn't want to go to Congress and explain that, hey, we removed a Statue of Liberty because of China, because of the Communist Party of China, is what he said. Understandable. Very, very understandable. So that's interesting. I didn't actually know that that was the very specific reason that they had to do that. Now, he did say, which is funny because it's basically says he's seen Spider-Man Brand New Day. They asked if the Statue of Liberty is in Spider-Man Brand New Day, and he thought about it for a second, basically going over the movie in his mind, and he said no. So there's that. So this is going to go in China, so this could make more money than No Way Home, especially if Sadie Sink is Jean Grey, and we do have the Punisher in this, and we have the Hulk. And it sounds like things are kind of building towards Kingpin, not in this movie. But we've recently heard that Spider-Man Brand New Day, Tombstone is kind of the main villain, but they're going to basically show us or explain that there is a villain above Tombstone. I wonder who that could be. Could it possibly be the person who ran New York City? Because I'm assuming at some point in time in Daredevil Born Again Season 2 or Season 3, they're going to kick Mayor Kingpin out of power. We'll have to wait and see on that, but I do think he is the person in charge. But as he went on to talk about his specific relationship with Marvel and Kevin Feige, it was actually really nice to hear. And it gives me hope that they are going to be smart about this reboot and consult with Kevin Feige when it comes to the reboot. I actually think that was kind of their problem. I don't think they consulted with Kevin Feige enough. They've said before they talk to Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, but I think he really needs to be involved. That was something Amy Pascal did really well. So he states, Marvel has been great partners, and he really said nothing but great things about Kevin Feige and Sony's relationship with Marvel. He says that he met Kevin Feige when, he was an assistant of assistant working on the X-Men movie. And he claims that the X-Men movie was kind of the first majorly successful Marvel movie because the characters were taken seriously, which is a fair point. Definitely is a fair point. And he says that Kevin Feige is a genius, but he did talk about Marvel's decline. And again, he just seems to really get this, which gives me hope that they're going to do right in this Spider-Man spinoff universe. He states that when talking about Marvel's decline, he said scarcity as value, which I think we all know. They did too much TV, which is what he said, and was kind of what we already knew already. And then he confirmed more things that we've heard from articles and trade sources. He says, Kevin Feige was basically given an order and he did it, right? So Disney basically said, you got to produce all this stuff for us. You got to produce all these TV shows. And he said, yeah. And they got spread too thin and scarcity became scarce, if that makes sense. There was no scarcity anymore. Marvel was everywhere, which was great for super big Marvel fans, but also it was a lot. And if you wanted to keep up with everything, it was a little bit overwhelming for some people. I know that for some people. So he says, you have to make the audience miss you, but there's one thing that he knows. Never bet against Jim Cameron and never bet against Kevin Feige.
Never bet against Jim Cameron, okay? And never bet against Kevin Feige. He knows what he's doing.
They have engaged in a course correction. He was given that mandate for the TV, but they have now done a course correction. He knows very well now that less is more. Have no worries about the new Avengers movie. That's literally what he said. So everything he said points to them having a great relationship with Marvel Studios. So if they are indeed going to be giving Marvel more of their catalog, but they're also going to be doing their own Spider-Man spinoff universe, perhaps this is a sign that they will be working more together with Marvel to make this spinoff universe happen. I'm not saying it's going to be set in the MCU because I doubt it, but there is a possibility that it could be. Sony can use all of their characters and do some movies and have them appear in MCU movies. They can have their own Spider-Man and have him appear in his own universe, but maybe come over to ours every now and then because of Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Once these movies come out, I think the multiverse is going to be much easier for a lot of people to understand. And after these movies, I think establishing a separate universe will be very easy to understand because we've just seen it all happen. And we've already seen it with the Fantastic Four. We've seen it with Multiverse of Madness. We've seen it with Deadpool and Wolverine. But there's going to be very clear rules, and it's going to be painted in a very easy picture, I hope, in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. So I think they are taking advantage of the fact that Marvel, the MCU, is doing a reboot. And I think that might be when the new spin-off universe starts. Again, it seems like they're really working with Marvel. It seems like Tom Rothman talks to Kevin Feige. And it seems like when they do this new universe, I would hope they know where they went wrong before, and that is not having Spider-Man actually in it, and just making movies about characters that people really don't care about. And again, it's like you don't really care about those characters unless they're with Spider-Man telling very specific stories. But this means we're probably getting a new Venom. They did say new people. They're rebooting it with new people. So we're definitely going to get a new Venom because that was their best one. And they know that. I would assume they're going to do their own Spider-Man. I'm not sure what deal they worked out with Marvel, but I'm sure they're going to make sure Spider-Man gets in there in some way, shape, or form. And then I think they're going to lean really heavily into Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen. Miles might be their main Spider-Man. If we're going to keep having a Peter Parker in the MCU, which we know Tom Holland has 3 more films left as Spider-Man, so he's going to be around for a while. It makes sense to do Miles as the main character and have Spider-Gwen in there as well. Those two are awesome, and they could carry a franchise if you get really good actors to play them. And then maybe have Tom Holland Spider-Man swing in there every now and then. He's already dealt with a lot of multiversal stuff, and he's about to deal with more in Avengers Secret Wars. So I think there's really good ways to make this work, especially if they're, using the same writers from Into the Spider-Verse, the same team, just doing it live action. There's ways to make it work. Of course, I'm still worried. It's Sony. It's Sony's spin-off Spider-Verse. Of course, I'm worried. I would have rather had them just completely work with Marvel and let Marvel use all of their characters in the MCU, and that's it. But they want to keep the rights to Spider-Man, so they got to make Spider-Man properties. They're not going to give that up. That's pretty much what was expected. So here we are. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Do you think, and I guess this is kind of just maybe a redundant question because the Spider-Verse they already had wasn't very good, but do you think this one will be better than the next one? I pray it is. It's hard to imagine it won't be, especially since they should realize their mistakes. But we'll wait and see. But in the meantime, let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Are you excited for this? Do you think that it might have the ability to be something good? Or do you think we're in for another disaster? Leave your comments down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all things Marvel, including the Sony Spider-Verse that is going to come, and of course the MCU. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.